Kind of smooth. All right, welcome to 10 Figure Trucking Mastery. Wednesday, it is March 22nd, 2023. So we're actually getting close to the end of the quarter. Man, this year is flying by very fast. And we've done a few of these. And the theme of our talks today has been inside of system mastery. There's a few tenets that we actually are founded on or we stand on. We're going to get to that in a moment. So I just want to welcome you if it's your first time actually being on this webinar series. We're going to get started with this and get you some real value. We're not going to be long on this call today, guys. All right. But what I do want to share, like I said, we're entitled this talk, this conversation about system mastery. So if you didn't know, it's me, Cheston Bolgen, By the Books Consulting. I'm a senior consultant over here and CFO, founder of this company. We do accounting, QuickBooks Online advisory, the bookkeeping, the systems inside of your accounting processes. We help you with that. Also, we do tax planning and tax services here. So what does that mean? We are in tax season right now, so we're doing a lot of tax filing, which is one of the reasons I'm going to keep this call short so we can focus on making sure everybody's moving forward inside of the tax process. And we do strategy, which is making sure that people get to keep their hard-earned money. When you go out there and work, you want to make sure you keep as much as possible of your hard-earned money. So we do that. We get with you individually and look at your business. If you do have a business, of course, you have a trucking company. If you're watching this live stream, all right. So we get with you on that and make sure that you are set up to win inside of keeping your money. We also do operations consulting, business consulting. So inside of the trucking industry, what does that look like? We're going to talk about a few of those things today when it comes to systems, the gaps that may arise when you're at certain stages of growth in your business. You may want to know how to get to that next level and you may be stuck. And so we come in and look at those things and say, well, here's your sticking point. This is the action that wants to be taken. And then, wow, just like magic, no more sticking point. You can actually move forward with velocity and no longer feel as though you're stopped. All right, so that's what we do. And before we get started, I just want to start with a disclaimer. The following is for educational purposes only and is not to be considered financial accounting or legal advice. Please consult your tax, accounting, and/or legal professional for specific advice. Really important to really see how what we share here is going to apply to your unique situation. All right, so you want to do that. And here, we also want to talk about, what is going to make the difference for you inside of our discussions here. The trajectory of this meeting, I've been kind of in and out. I don't like to be in and out, right? There's no power in that. As far as where this group is going to go, we have not really promoted as such up until this point to grow it, to get more people in it. Really what we want here is a close-knit environment inside the mastermind group where we can actually share ideas and get insight and value from one another so that we can level up inside of this trucking industry. As it stands, I've been bringing a lot of value to you guys in terms of, what structures are put in place for accounting, the mindsets that are available, right, for you to move from where you are to where you want to be. Financial literacy, of course, is something that we talk about, all right? But what do you want to hear? What kind of things do you actually want to bring to the table that will make the difference inside of what you're doing, all right? This is the way to do it. You can hit me on Instagram at Your Accounting Superhero, or on LinkedIn, same thing, or here on this group, this Facebook group that's not on this slide here, but you can actually reach out here on this Facebook channel, this Facebook group, or on YouTube. If you're watching from YouTube, you can send a message there, and we can actually bring what you want to talk about to this discussion. Okay, so yeah, do that. So we look at 10-figure trucking mastery. I was mentioning that we have these 4 tenets that we stand on. The first one is called intentionality, which is mindset mastery. This is the first thing for a reason. If we don't have mastery over our mindset, then we are done before we start. All right, you want to make sure that you actually have focus and attention on where you're placing your attention. Right, so that's a huge deal, man. You want to be able to master the way you approach life. What do I mean? What we focus on is what we attract, and what's what we get. A lot of the times, we may go through things in life, and it may seem as though things are not quite working out the way I want them to work out, and you may take a blow, a financial blow. You might have a truck go down, two trucks go down, three trucks go down, and now you're looking at, well, how am I going to manage cash flow? It's real easy for us to let our attention and focus go to those things when we want to have our attention and focus on the things that will make the difference for us. This is your job as the visionary and a leader of your organization. If you're a small company or medium-sized company or large company, you want to make sure that you are grounded in the direction and the vision and the purpose of your organization. It has to be very intentional. Yeah, we go through things. And where do I want to place my focus? I want to place my focus on what's going to be the next thing to move it in the direction that I want to go inside of my business. Very important here, right? So whatever we do, and we'll have these talks. Like I definitely want to have these talks inside of our mastermind group here to identify like how to actually manage this and have mindset mastery. Also, we have something called financial mastery. This is financial literacy, and we've been talking a lot about this since the group has been started. You want to understand the number story, right? So we put numbers together inside of our business. We want those numbers to reflect, what the history and the patterns and the true story of business has been, and then we can actually frame this to create the next chapter how we see fit. Okay, we have financial mastery and financial literacy. It becomes easy to actually see exactly where we want to go and what's going to make the difference inside of our actions to move that forward financially. Of course, we in this conversation today called structures, which is system mastery. And systems really make the world go round. And this universe is built on systems, right? Things that you can rely on consistently, day in and day out. Imagine if you had something just working outside of your direct efforts. You didn't have to put much into it because you found out, okay, this thing works, this process works. We're going to make this thing actually a repetitive process in business so that gap is bridged forever. And now we can go on and build more things like that. So at one point in time in the future, I will have a massive organization that produces massive results for you, your employees, their families, the community, and it actually makes the true difference, and it delivers the true intention of what you want from this business, which is what we call this freedom, wealth, and legacy. That's what we're about: freedom, wealth, and legacy. All right. So looking at last tenet is actions, which is execution mastery. And this part of what we're focused on here, but this tenet here is critical. Like nothing really matters unless we execute. We can have all the mindset, we can have all the understanding about financial literacy, we can build whatever structures have these structures in mind that we want to have, the systems that we want to have. And if we don't execute, it means absolutely nothing. All right, we don't take the actions necessary, we're wasting our time. Okay, really makes a difference here. So these are the things that we focus on inside of this group. So if you're watching here first time, this is what you're inside of. This is the body, the embodiment of what we are about. Okay, so we've been in this conversation driving things forward in 2023, specifically when it comes to structures. Last week we started talking about different types of structures that are available in your operations and what you do. Today I just want to talk a little bit about onboarding, a little bit more. All right. So once we have a clear onboarding process, this is something that every business needs. All right. And this is what I really want to say. Every business needs an onboarding process that is systematic, repeatable, and duplicatable, trainable inside of their organization. It's amazing to me how many companies out there just have kind of fly by night processes, things that are not etched in stones, things that are not written out, things that aren't complied with inside of the organization and operation. It doesn't matter if you're a solo operation or if you're an organization that has thousands of employees. This is important nonetheless. Systems will allow you to grow your business and scale your business with effectiveness, with velocity, and cause you a whole lot less headaches, and then and grant you a lot of peace of mind is what that will grant you, because you just know these things are taken care of 100%. So if we're talking about an onboarding process, you really want to think about, if you're a trucking company, what are the things that you absolutely need to do in order to bring somebody on to your organization? Whether that person is a driver or other type of employee or contractor, whether this is a vendor, somebody who you're actually receiving services from, right? Like your fuel, who you're choosing to use for your fuel, who you're choosing to use for your maintenance, who you're choosing to use for your factoring, who you're choosing to use for whatever services that you use inside of your fleet. Right? There wants to be a process by which we onboard um, these vendors or even customers, for that matter. What is the process for you onboarding brokers, shippers, um, direct customers, contracts? What does that process look like? And where is your focus, right? Once we have these processes understood for ourselves, we want to not just have them in our head. We want to bring these things out here in a way where they're written down for other people to follow these structures. We're doing a QuickBooks superhero boot camp coming up this Sunday. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put this here in the chat for those of you that want to participate in this boot camp. I'm going to put a link here for you to get signed up and participate in that. So what this does, this whole idea behind this QuickBooks boot camp is the same thing: structures, systems, onboarding, right? These things enable us to keep this process quick, easy, seamless, and duplicatable, which means I can train somebody else to do them, and then everybody who comes on board with my company, they have a process to follow that actually has them comply with the rest of the things I want them to comply with. It's a filtration process. For example, so my CDL suite is what it's called now. Right? CDL suite has a platform for which you can actually send a link to drivers, potential applicants, for them to go ahead and fill out your application and submit all the necessary supporting documents that you need. Right? And then from there, the system will actually do all the FMCSA compliance documents associated with them filling out those applications. And you can actually go to their previous employment history. From there, you can send everything to your consortium for your drug testing and screening and MVR. And everything's in one system, one structure, right? And all their documents, CDL, medical card, applications, and all the disclosures that they need to sign off on are right there in that system. Now that they're there, you can actually export those into other things like your QuickBooks to keep it attached to them if they move forward in the process. Right, so you have step one, send them the link. Step two, filter them like through the background checks and all of the MVR and everything through your associated systems. Once they get through that process, we can say, okay, we want to hire this person. So we start moving them over into the HR component of that, which is getting them on payroll, making sure their W-9s and or W-4s are where they need to go. Whether it's going to be in your TMS and in your accounting software, attached to that specific driver. Now they get access to all the deductions they need if they're on W-2, if they have withholdings that they need to take, if they're a 1099 person, we can do backup withholdings if that's the case. But you want to make sure that all those things come step 1 from the link, step 2 for the background checks, step 3, they pass the background checks, move them into our systems. Step 4, and move them into the training process, right? Now, if you don't have these structures in place, it will seem like chaos to you. If you don't have these structures in place and you have multiple people on your team, you'll have other people doing what they want to do rather than doing the thing that you need them to comply with. But these things want to be out here. This is a step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3 each and every time. These are the technologies that we use to produce that. And we want everybody to be on board with how that process works. So I have some people that I work with, they don't have these structures in place all the way. They have a like kind of a fly-by-night type system when they come to us. And what we do is we see where the pain points are. The pain points is, and then they don't sleep at night easily. The pain points are they always have to think that they have to do everything in the business. And if something may be out there, something may be missing. And then even when the drivers or their employees go through the process, they have something in the back of their mind like, man, am I fully compliant? Or am I going to get caught out there? What if I have an audit right now? Am I going to be good to go? Do I have what I need? Or where is it that I just stored those documents for that driver? Where is their medical card? When does that thing expire? Same thing for like the vehicles. I mean, there's onboarding processes for your trucks and trailers and equipment. Like, well, how do I know when the last maintenance was performed? I'm like, what am I using to track when that inspection is up? What am I using to track the mileage of it? And making sure I'm on task with all the services that are required for it. Or when I'm going to actually sell this off or get rid of this, dispose of this asset for something else. Right. So if I don't have these things in place, there's going to be a pain point. It's the one that's going to be like what we call like confusion and chaos. We just don't know things, right? And it seems like a mystery as to when these things are going to happen inside your business. And number 2, you don't scale, you don't grow, not as quickly, not as effective, not as efficiently as you can. And number 3, you're going to have people on your team that seem to want to do their own thing. You're going to wonder why. And it's going to be frustrating. And it's all because it didn't start over here where you were, where you are, right here. You didn't take the ownership of it. And what I'm giving you the opportunity of today is to take ownership, complete ownership of the situation so that you establish these systems. Take the time to actually go through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. What technologies are you going to use? Number 1. What is going to be that initial contact point for your onboarding process for your drivers? Are you going to have an easy process where you send them a link, or are you going to make a phone call to them and have them send you information? You're going to do a manual process, right? One is distinct from the other. If you have an automated process where you send them a link and they fill it out on their own, well, then it becomes easy for you to move them forward to those next steps. They fill out the application. From them filling out the application and submitting their information, like their CDL and their medical card, all those documents can go directly to where they need from there with the click of a button if you have the technology in place. And once they pass the screening process, the next stage of that is what technologies are we using to actually monitor and maintain the record and history of these drivers while they're here, and make sure they're paid appropriately. They have all the deductions they need to take out of their check, whether you have a retirement program, whether they're just taking out taxes, or they're doing child support or whatever it is that they need to take out from their checks. Making sure you're compliant with that, right? And then when you have these checkpoints, what technology using to make sure you are on task with the checkpoints, like when their CDL is up, when their medical card is up, when they should have a drug screening, a random, right? So all those components want to be used inside of your systems that you have available for technology. So there's a technological component that you want to really get clear on. A lot of times it comes down to your trucking management software. There are simple ones, like when I say simple, I mean like not costly ones that actually work and do the job. One of the ones that I did a video on, we did on like a demo of is that Camion video. You can watch it here on YouTube. Pretty decent technology. It has its limitations, but it does get you a lot, right? Out of the availability of the technology. It does do a lot for you. It enables you to have these onboarding processes and keep track of things in the way that we're discussing today. There's also truckstop.com. They have that ITS dispatch, which is decent for what it is. It looks a little old school, but it actually is effective, and it is less costly for most smaller companies, right? And then you have more advanced and comprehensive systems that you can take advantage of, like a load and stop. That's pretty advanced technology that you can use to track and monitor and integrate a whole lot of things, so that you really bring things together, right? But then you also have your accounting softwares like your QuickBooks or Xero or whatever else you're using to make sure that your financials are in order. But you want to understand how to make a cohesive process from step one all the way down to step 10, right? You want to have those steps in a check mark, in a check off fashion, to make sure you go through those processes each and every time. And the people that come on your team understand how to do those processes each and every time, right? So what's it going to be for you? Now, if you're watching this recording and you want to actually get more insight into this conversation as to how can you actually set up your onboarding processes for your drivers, put a message in our chat. We'll respond to you. We'll give you some insight to that. What are some options available to you? We set up a strategy session. We can go over your specific situation and say, okay, well, look, this is the option that's available for you. How do you actually create this for your own business, right? What is the best approach to this? Given what's available, I know a lot of things that are available out here in terms of the technology that helps ease the process and the movement from one stage to the next stage inside of an onboarding system. And there are so many other things that are out there that I may not know, right? But the idea is to be in the discovery of what it is that's going to work for you specifically, and take those actions. And we talked about, with that, we talked about onboarding drivers specifically and employees specifically. But what about vetting and onboarding your vendors and your customers? A lot of times, like we use spot market out here. A lot of people use spot market inside of the trucking industry. And when I say spot market, I just mean you're using brokers, right? You're doing a load board, and you're searching for loads that way. And it can be scary to pick anybody off a load board because you don't know whether or not these guys are going to pay you 100%. Now, we do have those things that help alleviate that sense of uncertainty when it comes to being paid, like your factoring company, or are they factorable? Now we can go to our factoring company and say, hey, look, let them take care of it. And there's going to be a point where that no longer serves financially, right? There's going to be a point where the cost of factoring is going to be too much or more than reasonable for you to continue that route. And how are you going to vet these customers otherwise? How are you going to make sure that there's a process by which you bring customers on that are going to serve the overall intentions of your company and the vision of your company? There are ways to check the credit. There's a review process. You can go on, the Safer site and see exactly what's going on with them. And you can also use, if you have a factoring company, you can use their credit evaluation to make sure that these guys are no less than A-level credit. Gives you a good idea that these guys pay their bills. And then only choose those that have that certain amount of credit or above, right? Then when we're looking at these agreements, there are certain terms in an agreement that you want to actually understand when it comes to your broker package, your carrier packets that you get sent out. What are those deal breakers for you? You really want to get inside of that and say, okay, well, detention, they're only paying this much for detention? Well, no. How are they going to handle lumpers? Are they going to pay that, or you got to come out of pocket? What's that going to be like? Right? What are the turnaround time for them paying out? Because it does cost for the days that you have to wait in order to get paid. It costs for you on the factoring side if you're using a factoring company. It costs for you outside of that because there's a time value to money. Do they have a quick pay? How much does it cost for them to do that? What type of lanes are they providing? Do they coincide with the lanes that you work and operate? Or are you just randomly selecting people based on just availability? You're reacting to the situation rather than commanding what you want out of your business. Having an onboarding structure where you have a certain set of rules that you want to abide by, like a standard that you want to abide by, improves the level at which you operate in your business and in your life. So when you have those processes, like carrier package, make sure the agreements get read fully and understood, whether or not they fall through the cracks of the standards or if they actually hold inside of those standards. You want to have that checkpoint. And once we do that, then we want to establish, okay, where do they fit in? Are we going to have this amount of percentage of freight come from this broker? When and where are we going to plan loads for this particular broker? Do we have a clear understanding of how they operate, what lanes they'd like to be in, and how can we strategically place them inside of our operation? You want to understand this for each one of your customers. How is that going to fit in overall to the way that you operate inside of your business? Does that really align with what you're about? All the way around. Same thing with your vendors. You want to definitely want to make sure pricing wise, you get the best advantage there, but not just price, but the value that's being delivered. Sometimes it might be worth paying a little bit more to get a lot more value out of a vendor. And what do I mean by value? Well, the locations. That's one big value because we're all over the place inside of the industry. How many locations do they have? Like if you're looking at somebody like a TA or Petro or Loves, it's good. Those are good vendors to have because they're everywhere. Pilot, they're everywhere. But what about maintenance, right? What's going to be the best situation for you maintenance wise? Can you get a solid mechanic and a chain of mechanics strategically located across the country? That gives you, great turnaround time and great pricing and great value, right? What is your process for onboarding these people? What is your process for going out and looking for these people? These are the questions that you want to continually ask yourselves in order to make your business scalable to the degree that you want to grow it. If I don't have these in place, then you're really not thinking about, this whole 10-figure mastery inside of trucking. We're not thinking about that, right? But this is your job. Your job as somebody who's in here in this group, as somebody who's in a 10-figure trucking mastery group, is to really think along these lines. What's going to be the next thing to take my company to those next levels in terms of onboarding structures? How am I really scrutinizing these things? How am I actually putting my attention on these things? And how am I moving these things forward in my company so that I can build these systems one time, have everybody comply with them, and make life easy and simple for the company and yourself? All right, guys. With that being said, we're going to wrap this call up. I'm hoping you got value from this conversation. What the main thing I'm hoping that this conversation does is stimulate the mental juices to start brainstorming the ideas in which you're going to create those systems in your business. Onboarding, specifically onboarding it with your drivers. What process is that going to be? Are we gathering all the information up front that we need? Are we storing this information in a way where we can always come back to it, and that we're set up for sure wins inside of compliance, sure wins inside of driver retention, sure wins inside of scalability? All right. The other thing is, are we thinking about these processes for our vendors and our customers in a way where we're driving this thing forward to create, the things that line up completely with the vision of your company, right? So send me a message here in the group. If you're on YouTube, send a message there with anything that you want to actually know more so about this, and we'll be happy to respond. Other than that, it's been great being with you, and I will see you next week. Take care.